Then it's
Oh,
hot.
I'll be calling you out, all right?
You can turn it out. Rather not.
Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order. It's 4 o'clock and it's the Tuesday, December 11th, 2018 meeting. Just so everybody knows, we're on live video, and when you speak, you're going to be on video. Sure here's one. We have a couple changes to the agenda. 6.1, the water incident question and answer period will be moved up to public comments. We've got the council board meeting date calendar will be moved down to new business. We have a change on that. And the adoption of the minutes, 7.1, are being moved for the closed session meeting minutes, and the regular meeting minutes for November will be moved up into the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda with the changes?
So moved.
Wendell moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Barry seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Holloman, would you like to do the invocation?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Let's all bow our heads. Lord, we come before you today humble, and we've had a lot of things go on since the last time we've had a meeting. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for all the visitors to Beech Mountain. We thank you for the council and staff, and we ask that you bless the decisions that are made. Lord, we thank you very much for saving the diver's life and for all those who had a part in saving his life that November 20th evening. Lord, we also thank you for surviving the weather storm we had this past week, and for all those who helped and for watching over Beech Mountain during that storm event. And we just have so many blessings to thank you for, and Lord, we continue to seek your prayer for those who are sick and need your special healing touch. And we ask that you bless us this holiday season. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to start with the water incident question and answer period. Tim Holloman, our town manager, is going ahead and address that. And then there will be a public comments from you and questions if you need to have answered after he's gone through everything. He's handing out some information to everybody to pass around. So if you'll let him do his thing first, and then we'll come back and ask questions. Yeah. Tim, do you have any extra copies for the council?
For council?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mayor. This is the questions list that was submitted by Erska Steiger. We've basically taken that list, and I'll be reading some things from it. I handed out what I counted earlier for copies. If somebody needs a copy that doesn't have one, Chief Barnett will have those, and we'll go through it this time. And after I read through this, then I'll ask Robert if he has any additions, and Robert may also call on Daniel Davis if he has anything to add. The first series of questions involve the valve in question that was being looked at November 19th and 20th. The valve was installed in 1984. Its purpose was to provide mechanical control of water release for the Buckeye Lake Reservoir. We have several agencies who have jurisdiction over this valve and our water utility system: the Army Corps of Engineers, the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality Dam Safety, the North Carolina Division of Water Resources, North Carolina Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Game, and North Carolina Public Water Supply. The last time the gate was opened and closed was October 2016. Also, because the question was, has any town received any correspondence in the past 3 years or years, any state or federal agencies about the valve? We've received numerous correspondence and visits. The most recent was a meeting with state agencies on October 15th of this year. The Army Corps informed the town they needed stream flow data through the installation of gauges and that the valve will be required to be inspected and operational. The purpose of this meeting was to request a change in the minimum release for the town's drinking water permit. Achieving a lower release will put the town in better compliance with the existing permit and benefit the town in the long run with the proposed Watauga intake project. That's the first series of questions related to the valve. The second relates to the dive contract. And the reason the town chose this dive company was to meet maintenance and to meet the requirements of the United States Army Corps of Engineers and minimum flow regulations required by permit. Was there a request for proposal by the town? No, due to this specialized work and under the recommendations of the town's engineering group, there was not. This type of contract is not subject to a request for proposal legally. The purpose of the scope of work was to inspect and operate and prepare a report about the valve. No maintenance work was to take place. How many bidders were there for the contract? This was, as we said earlier, this was a specialized operation and no general bidding was done nor required for this work. The scope of operation was to inspect and operate and prepare an analysis report. The contractor was selected by Director of Infrastructure Robert Heaton. All contractors performing work for the town are required to have general liability insurance, so not just one, but all contractors doing work for us. The contract was performed, as said earlier, November 19th through the 21st of 2018. Robert Heaton was the supervisor in charge. The contractor was asked to open and close the valve and did so several times. Was there any discussions about possible adverse consequences to lake levels? There was a great amount of discussion on this issue if it couldn't be closed. At this time of year, contractor availability and water recharge rates were primary factors in choosing this time. There was no discussion about using a cofferdam to build around the intake before this inspection was to take place. And the incident. What employees of the town were present while the divers were at Buckeye Lake? Daniel Davis and Ronnie McKinney, among many others. Describe using eyewitness accounts what occurred at Buckeye Lake on November 20th, starting from when the divers arrived until the diver was rescued. This explanation is a compilation of what Daniel, Robert, and Bob Pudney provided me and kind of meshed it together. It does seem very to the point, but I'll go ahead and take time to read through it. Daniel Davis checked in with the divers just after lunch on November 20th. Reports from the contractor were that work was proceeding as expected and completion was expected Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. The first indication there was a problem with the inspection was when dispatch notified the fire department at approximately 6:53 p.m. that the company was having difficulties. The emergency call for utilities went out around the same time that evening. Robert Heaton, Daniel Davis, and Ronnie McKinney were contacted and alerted to the incident of the trapped diver underwater at Buckeye Lake. The fire department requested mobilization of the following resources: Linville Volunteer Fire Department inflatable boat, diver, and rope, Carter County, Tennessee Diver Rescue Team, Rotary Wing Aircrafts, Watauga and Avery Emergency Management, Eggers Construction, Heavy Equipment and Pumps, and Carolina Water for a water pump. Beach Mountain Police Department, Avery Sheriff Department escorts, and a fishing boat with a large engine from Lone Mountain was requested. Arriving on the scene, the water plant was requested to stop operation to begin lowering the water level as the diver was trapped in the bottom of the lake. Robert and Daniel began mobilizing manpower and equipment for expected needs and rescue operation. 23 fire department members were present along with 4 Beach Mountain Volunteer Fire Department apparatus or vehicles. The first rescue diver was in the water at 7:33 p.m. and delivery of warm water to the diver began approximately 7:51 p.m. The Carter County dive team around 8:30 and pool rope was attached to the trap diver at 8:45. The trap diver was removed from the release gate at 9:36 He remained underwater for 22-minute decompression period and was removed from the lake at 9:59. From here, the diver was transported to Watauga Medical Center. Ultimately, all parties on scene worked together, utilizing their equipment and town resources to free the diver. Robert Heaton attempted to close the drain after the accident and was advised by contract employees on site the valve actuator was not functioning properly. Daniel Davis met with the owner of the contract dive firm on site and to plan further action regarding the lake drain. As far as instructions given to the divers for the any town employees on November 20th, nothing additional was given to the divers by town staff, and they were just told to continue with the work as planned. Who decided to open the valve on November 20th? Robert Heaton, as we mentioned the requirements and why we were choosing to do this. Was there any discussion on November 20th about possible adverse consequences? The valve had been functioning properly this day and the previous day. No adverse consequences were expected. Was there an emergency plan in place in the event that the valve could not be closed? We have extensive emergency response plans all across all systems and departments and divisions of the town's operational infrastructure, so yes. We do have an emergency plan to deal with sudden loss of water in Buckeye. The plan was executed. What are some of the parameters of that plan? Activated water shortage response plan to inform the public about conservation needs and status. Activate the Beach Mountain Utilities Emergency Action Plan for direction to utility. Notification of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Health of the situation. And activate the Watauga Hazard Mitigation Plan and continue in a prudent manner to evaluate, affect, and manage the situation. What was the total cost of the town to supply water to tanker and supply bottled water? Around $1,600 for the bottled water and $59,250 for the water tankers. No charge by Banner Elk for the water we received from that town. We have had an after action meeting plan on Monday, November 26th after the event. And some of the opportunities for improvement were identified, several procedural improvements. Make sure essential departments have gate code to the water plant. Need additional water hauling company contacts. Although the police dispatch answer calls, having town staff available to answer calls would improve dissemination of information. Review changes in staff and make sure staff and council are trained to the level required. We're talking about NIM safety training. Several of our staff and department heads are, and we'll fill in the blanks on that. Current utilities, town manager, town clerk, and fire and police chiefs are certified. Make sure meter reading can take place or investigating charging a surcharge so that meter reading is not necessary. Hire a fourth water treatment plant operator to allow better rotation for key operations. Building with other towns and agencies for water and establish the price ahead of time. Alert fire and police a week prior to routine maintenance work, including diving. Make sure map to water distribution site is on social media. Add Twitter notifications in addition to town website and Facebook. And if there's any changes to policy, refer to 6. That's any changes we mentioned have been mentioned in the question above. Madam Mayor, we'll take questions at this time.
Okay, if you have a question, raise your hand. We will get to everybody. If the questions start repeating, then we'll call it a day and move on. So who has any questions about the incident? Yes, Tammy.
Why do we not schedule some of these maintenance plans that affect the whole town when we're not in the vote to receive?
Robert's going to go ahead and answer that for you.
It's a good question, and I've been asked it about 10 times, and I don't know if this thing picked me up this or not.
You will.
If you've been here during the summer and spring, you know what our water's like. Usually going into the spring, we have a nice full lake. As you go through the summer, it goes down. We have one shot at doing this in the year. It's October, November, December. Army Corps asked us to get this thing in a hurry because they want it done before winter. So we only really ended up having a little bit of October and November. When we scheduled it out, that's when the divers would come. One of the good things for us in doing it in November is we have a lot of rainfall in October and November. We have that recharge rate. If something did happen, we had a better chance of having the lake full going into December, January than we would be now. If you do it in June, last time we lost the lake in June was 2010, and we were not this low. It took it till the 23rd or 20th of November 2010 to run over.
I think the biggest concern is Thanksgiving weekend. Any other weekend would have even been a little bit easier in November.
You know, we only had so many weekends. I could either do it that weekend or sometime in December, closer to Christmas.
But we can't do it before the 2 weeks in November when nothing's open.
That's when we could get the divers in.
Can it be planned for the next year or the years following November?
There's gonna be different things coming down the road as a part of this. We found out a lot of information through this dive and through draining the lake where the issues are. Can I address one question that I've got out in the street? I've heard this quite often. Well, I have heard, I get everything secondhand. Nobody wants to talk to me, so I'm talking here. There's a lot of information out there that there was something wrong with the valve to begin with. There wasn't. We always had issues with this valve. This valve's on the lake. Anybody saw the lake on Wednesday, Thursday, after this, or Thanksgiving, there's a fear of opening that thing. Because we always had this fear, if we keep opening it up, we close it. We open it periodically because we have to. With the age on it, we wanted to have it checked to see if there's anything that we could do to make it better. And that's one of the reasons we had this inspection. What ended up happening to this, it's not really a valve, it's actually a sluice gate. It slides up and down. And this thing's on 132 foot of 2-inch stainless steel rod. And it's got 39 inches of thread on the end of it. That whole thing moves. And it's got a 4x4 gate on the bottom of it. And all thing that holds this thing in the ground is about 6 or 8 concrete collars. They're 2 foot by 2 foot, and they have a little clamp on top of it. So this thing's 37 foot under the water. You take that weight, add to the force of water coming to the dam, and that's what's running this thing. So we knew if we ever had a problem with it. The divers went in, they did their initial inspection, excuse me, and didn't find anything. We opened it, we closed it, we opened it, we closed it again. They did their last run through, they were going to video everything so they could get their engineering report. And that 2-inch diameter rod at about 130 foot, bent 3 foot. Both. 2 of those concrete collars had come out of the ground. Well, they weren't in the ground anyway. They were inside the lake, they were sitting on top of the bank. That's the problem. It would either went when the divers did it, or it would went in the spring when I started opening it to the bank.
I heard that the valve was not supposed to be open, and that the diver made the decision to
The
open it.
diver did not make that decision. We coded it, open and close it. That was part of the operation, to see how it worked and see if everything was mechanically sound.
So he was not down there just to clear debris and film it, and not
They were there to
open the valve.
operate
He
and
was
see.
down there to.
Yes, it had to be shown that everything was mechanically sound.
Frank?
Robert, was the, Tim may have answered this, I can't hear him that good for some reason or whatever, but, was the water actually drained out of the lake in order to rescue the diver, or was it,
No.
you got him out safely and you couldn't get the valve closed enough to?
Bob, Riley, Tim, those guys got him out. We were just there with him.
But I'm saying that the lake
yeah.
drained because you couldn't close the valve?
When he went it back in, it would not close all the way. It was actually only open about 6 inches. And then when he went back to see what was going on, something happened and he ended up in it. It sucked him in.
That was gonna be my second question, how did he get trapped?
If you
How
see
did
the
we prevent that
videos,
from happening again with a, you know?
it's a
another-
different deal, you know, it'll be a different deal when we do that. But it was actually something happened and he slipped or somehow it sucked him in. Yeah, it's amazing how much water's going through there.
Vortex.
And we couldn't get it closed, so it was draining by itself. When we got back here Wednesday morning, we were right above the 30 intake. So we worked on it all day Wednesday, trying to close it by force. And all we ended up doing is making it bend more than it was. So that's when I made the decision with Wednesday, and we're gonna lose it anyway. Let's drain it, get it fixed, close the gate, and we can start filling back up and get back on.
Is it a temporary fix, or could it be a permanent fix?
Right now, it's permanently closed.
But it's not permanently fixed.
It's not fixed. We are waiting on the video to go. They will finish their engineering part at their company, send the videos to our engineers, and they'll all do their thing on how to
Any
fix it.
idea how much it's gonna cost to permanently fix it?
not until I get the idea of how they're gonna do it. There was some talk down there doing a track, but you're gonna have to replace that whole shed. What they told me and what I have found to do a little research is, the gate itself is very expensive. They spent a lot on the gate. The apparatus to open and close it was the cheapest thing they could find. Which goes back to, low bid.
Lack thereof.
They gotta do what they can. So they're looking at changing that, and we'll get that information sometime, probably first year, and we'll get it to BNG then, and they'll look at it.
Thank you.
Robert, did the Army Corps of Engineers provide a time frame that they wanted this completed?
This has to be, technically, they want it operating not manually, but automatically to do the stream flows before spring. We're not gonna make that.
So could you have postponed this until, I understand about the lake being full in October and November, but could this have been postponed until early March?
I think if you lose the lake in early March, you won't get it back before summer. That's why it's like I told her a minute ago, we have a very small window. We have October, November, December, for sure it's gonna be wet. Once you get into December, it starts snowing, we lose the stream flows. Once you go into spring, oh, you've got some runoff. This year's may be better. The last 2 years have been the best runoff we've had. That's why the gate's not been open, because we've actually kept the stream flows.
So
If we
you-
go back into a dry spell, you don't want to open this thing going into summer.
So when did the town start planning on having this project done?
We have talked about it since Barry Rothrock did his study in 2011. Once we got in, the Army Corps told us what they wanted, and Wildlife told us what they wanted, and they're figuring a number that we can meet in the stream as part of that minimum release. That's when they decided they wanted to go ahead with it.
So when did you guys contact the dive department to conduct this service?
October.
In October? So in hindsight, should they have been contacted maybe in July so that we could have been on the agenda for maybe early October, or?
We didn't meet with the Army Corps until October 15th. So no, we couldn't have talked about them in July because we had not found out from Army Corps and these other agencies what we needed to do. If we did do it now, we'd have to wait until November 2019. The Watauga intake, as you can see by what happened this past Thanksgiving, is desperately needed. That would put that whole period off for a year.
Deb?
So will, to do the permanent fixing of the valve, the closure, does the lake have to be drained again?
No, ma'am. The gate will stay shut, and they will redesign and reattach the apparatus to control it. They'll use divers to do that while the gate's closed. So we shouldn't. I mean, you never know. Every time you open and close that thing, you don't know. Because, I mean, I know a lot of these guys were down there, and I know there's a lot of people down there looking. But if you see how that lake is, I can imagine a tree getting stuck in real easy from one of these storms. So it's always, that's one of the reasons we've had issue with dam safety and them, but, it's their rules and we have to follow. Yes, sir.
Fred?
How do you restabilize the pier piling, if this thing was anchored to?
That's-
Because if you don't restabilize it, what's gonna keep it twisting and working in the future?
We're not gonna start operating again until it's fixed. Right now, it's forced closed.
Fred?
So, make sure everybody understands that you gotta keep water flowing all the time, not just there was a spillway.
Correct.
So that's probably why a lot of people don't understand.
Correct.
The Corps of Engineers and everybody, wildlife people, you gotta keep Buckeye Creek going regardless of how much water you're trying to
Yeah,
get.
I try to forget that a lot. In case you don't know, the reason we have to do this is Buckeye Lake is a water source lake, but most water source lakes are off stream. What that means, they're not part of the stream. Buckeye Lake is part of Buckeye Creek. It's a flow-through lake. And being a flow-through lake, we have to keep a certain stream for other people's wildlife, healthy, happy, and all that. Ours are pretty high for a small stream. We have a very small stream. We have 3 square miles that actually feed this stream. And I think what they call it minimum release, 2.8 cubic feet per second and 4 point something during spawning season. So that's why, the main thing that valve does, it's one that gets a little flow through the lake, it's also a drain on the lake. But for this application, that's what keeps the stream flow going. Once we go below the spillway on the dam, we are actually still releasing water, which means that we're not saving water during drought. You know, everybody says you build a lake, you're saving water for when you need it. Unfortunately, we don't get to do that. We have to keep those minimum releases going all the time. Yeah, and what we are in negotiations with Army Corps of Engineers, state wildlife people, is part of our permit is to reduce those numbers because they're so high, they're actually higher than what stream flow is. And that's what all this is all about, is trying to get that minimum release lowered enough where we'll have enough water to go ahead and produce water and keep the stream going.
I have a question only in the future, more so for the town, and this is probably gonna open another can of worms on top of it. If a situation like this arises again, whether it be for a fix or a catastrophe or something where we're gonna be without water again, what does the town have planned going into the future as far as possible having water reserves, or are we always gonna have to have tankers come up? Is it possible for the TVA to do a beautiful decorative water reserve instead of huge ornaments?
Well, I would say yes to all she just answered. I mean, we're looking at this, Watauga Intake is our proposed alternative to a second water source. That's a $16 million project. So, and we've not sacrificed anything anywhere else in the department in getting new fire trucks, new public works trucks. You have to make sure the town moves the whole head as a whole town, not just one entity. So yes, we are working on that. And the tankers, you know, I think I figured up the other day based on 2 days, a little bit over 200,000 gallons, which we usually use 400,000 gallons roughly a day when it's tourist season. It would take like $2 or $3 million per incident to have tankers up here. That is not an option. Tankers are not a viable option for the Watauga intake, or another intake is an option. The only other thing that we could do that's really not recommended by engineers is make a bigger reservoir, and that's going to be environmentally just not really possible, non-permittable. So we are pursuing the best route we can right now, and we're looking at something that's going to take 8 years right now. And the best thing is trying to speed that up as much as possible.
So is it possible to reallocate those funds with the TVA to make a decorative thing that would actually work?
The TDA's money comes from the occupancy tax, and the TDA is separate from the town. The only thing that the town has involved in the TDA is we pay half of the director's salary. So the TDA is an entity on its own, specifically chartered by the state of North Carolina for tourism. So any money by the TDA, it's not directed by the town. We
But
don't,
it is taxpayer funded.
no.
No.
It's
No.
occupancy tax only. So that none of taxpayers' money doesn't go to it. It's all occupancy tax from rentals. And so they kind of control their own budget. Eva?
Has there ever been a study made of Buckeye Lake as to its breadth, width, and possible depth? I mean, when I went down to look at that lake, it was really filled. There isn't much depth to it at all that sludge and everything else that was down there. Has there ever been a study? And the reason I ask this is because at Appalachian Ski Center, they did take a lake and dredged it and pulled it out, and they sprung 2 more springs in that lake, which gave them more water as opposed to just a runoff. So has there ever been a study of that made?
Robert?
I don't really know how they would do that here with this thing being in stream. And if it did, you still don't have any more capacity. I know we talked about that when Rock was here, and he kind of did some information. He never did get anything back that would lead him to do that. I think for the cost of what you're gonna have to do, and one of the other reasons, they brought up the Watauga impact. You know, there was multiple reasons that we brought that project up. One was the drought. One other major reason was what happened to us over Thanksgiving. You know, that valve's been down for 40 years, roughly 44 years. It's been operated off and on, but you know eventually it's a mechanical piece, it's gonna break. And it's either gonna break open or it's gonna break closed, and neither one of those are good things. I don't really think the only viable alternative we have is other than try to do some groundwater stuff, and, we're still looking at that, but we can't meet what the town needs through groundwater. Right now, so we're trying to look at groundwater because the water table's up. It's the one reason that the lake filled back up on Monday. Anybody, they asked me down there Thursday afternoon, when you think lake people, I said, we might be lucky by Christmas. And I'm sitting there watching water run in. There's gonna be some more study done on the lake just due to the fact that it has filled up. Tim and I talked about that with Daniel. I've got to get the engineers to look at it because once we mesh that lake, we can start getting back into the permit. But, we're gonna try to bring some stuff back for you.
If anybody will, state your name and address so Tamara can have it for the minutes. I didn't
Oh, I
get.
forgot about Tamara.
Okay. Kelly, go ahead.
I had two quick questions. Kelly Mullane, 1032 Sugar Hills Road. Was there any difference with the new, I know we had dug a new well on Beach Mountain to see if that made a difference with the prices that we went through. And I'm sure you're gonna go through the long-term plan, but I know that Beach Mountain tends to, based on the age of the pipes that we have, we're losing more water than we're pulling in. Is that affecting the decision from Watauga to connect to us? And if it is, what is our plan to work with that?
For the private part?
Yes.
No.
I didn't know if the new well that
We were gonna run it when we blew the transformers out and already had that day, so we did good on that. So we didn't run it. It would probably help, but the things that like fill up. We were actually pumping water Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And we closed it lunchtime on Thanksgiving. Yeah, so we actually go back and pump it. As far as the water goes, it's kind of, it looks piecemeal, but it's not. The water intake, the well stuff we're doing, it's all part of trying to get enough that, we can have a backup source. And if any piece we do, we did the wells hoping we might get lucky. We're not in geology too, like background is, and better ourselves about the well too. Groundwater is hard to do, mainly because of all the wells that are in the ground now. If you look at Eagles Nest, those are all wells. So we're pulling that water tank down, that often only has so much in it. Will wells help us if we can find a couple, maybe, that we can get in the system? The long-term viable water source, if you went down to the lake, like Eva said, it's not the 50-foot lake they told me when I came to work here in 1999. I knew it would be full. I did not expect that at all when we opened that sucker up. Down the road, we will have to deal with that. But in dealing with that, it may end up being we have to wait till we get the intake structure built. How we get the water that we can actually drain the lake and do it. That comes back to the permitting thing. One last thing, you mentioned the pipes. The pipes aren't as bad as everybody thinks. Most of our stuff, if you go back and look at the report, it is online, it's the rock offset, it's the connections. But one thing that makes the connections up here a problem is we run such high pressures because we're pumping water to the lake hand by hand. You go to your house and you put a pressure gauge on your water spigot outside, you've got a PRV on your house and you've got one, I've got one on the meter, you're gonna run 65, 70 pounds. Well, that thing on our side is gonna be anywhere from 60 to 380. Those pipes are being just expanded. And all they have is a little couple, 2 couplings with a little rubber thing and 2 boats on it. And y'all know we have leaks. And you know why we have leaks. When those little boats break, it blows up. That's the problem with the pipes. And the surface, when they get surface connected.
And how many connections are there?
Daniel? 2287. That's his department now. But we have, and they're all separate fixes. We are looking at doing pipes. We just did a project on Spruce Hollow. We will start another one, hopefully, will we bid it by
Spring, no?
fall,
Aren't you starting one in spring? Or
Charter Hill,
We probably start, if it bids in the spring,
fall.
yeah. So that will be another 20, right at 20,000 feet, and all the center sections are here. So we're working on that. We've got that number now. Those numbers that came out back in the late 2010, 2011, that road water came up, they're high. We're 47 now. So we've had it that far in that amount of time. This one will do real well. We have another water project that we'll start doing after, I'll start lining this one after we start this one. So we're gonna be, if we ever get in the 30s and can stay there with our system pressure, that's when we're about to do this we can get. EPA wants below 20. The guys who study this stuff for a living, and I forget what they call them, hydraulic guys. They say for every 20, 30 pounds you go over 100 PSI, your water leak loss rate is gonna go up about 20%. That's for that piece of pipe. And, yeah, if we can get in the 30s, we'll do good.
So where does Watauga want us to be in order to connect to them to provide you outside water source? Have they said, or is there any negotiations, or?
The state is on board. The state is on board. That was part of what that meeting was about with all these agencies. There's about 27 different agencies that get involved in this. All of them are pretty well on board. The state has already come out and supported us on their side. The federal people are looking very promising. TVA has no problem with it. The one problem we have is,
The Watauga Commissioners.
And we plan to speak to them in the springtime.
We'll be meeting with them at the beginning of the next year sometime, when it's not an election year, and maybe they'll go ahead and do what they need to do for us.
They were contacted back in 2015 at a meeting, and they did not approve at that time.
and then we talked to them all of it.
And we were told at the beginning of this year that we shouldn't bring it up to them because it was an election year.
That's what it is.
Joe?
Joe Antonello, 484 St. Andrews Road. So just a comment, and then I'd like to clarify something. Comment is, hindsight is 20/20, and I think everything here is very constructive of looking back at what happened, but I do want to commend the town for all the actions that were taken in a relatively short period of time and really containing that emergency. The fact that Diver was saved, the quick action on getting water up here, and the fact that we seemingly got back online with water in a really short period of time. So, accidents do happen. But just to clarify on fixing this sluice valve, you said that we're waiting for a report, and then we're going to determine, I guess, whether the valve needs to be replaced or can be repaired or shored up, or what's going to happen with it. Then I imagine we have to get bids on whatever that work is going to be. Do you have any ideas to what kind of time frame we're talking about with this, and any rough ideas to what kind of budget this is going to require?
The valve will have to be replaced itself. But what's going to have to be, the valve, the sluice gate itself will stay. It looks like the day they put it in. I mean, it is perfect.
Okay.
The apparatus will have to be replaced. The cost, I don't know. The ideas that we ran through while we were sitting down there, after we've done it, it's not really complicated. The way they want to do it, they want to do a track, some longer piers for guards out, they'll come in and put grout and set those in the ground. The cost is going to be, part of it's going to be underwater. And I don't have a clue, because I know they'll take that 2-inch rod to probably 3-inch rod, they'll have to change the actuator. So I don't.
Is this something that probably will be done next year, or we don't know?
I hope it'll be done next year. Like I said, you'll get this stuff back to us, we'll get it to the engineers, and we'll turn it as fast as we can. Can I tell them about the donors?
Yeah.
One thing I've heard a lot, and this was actually told to me by someone at the store the other day, they want to know how come we hire crappy divers. It's part of it. Just to let you know, Defiant Dump Marine is a really good company. If you go to their website and look at some of the projects they actually work all over the world. A couple of big projects that Tim didn't know about that I told him was One was when Sandy came through and flooded the New York subway. These are the guys who went in and got the water out. Anybody remember, what was it? Deepwater Horizon? The oil leak. If you don't know who capped it, the guy who was standing in the bottom of the lake on Thursday afternoon, beating that valve shut, is one of the divers who went in and capped that pool. These guys are good. They had an accident, and I had no problem bringing them back. They treated us very well. They stayed with us until the water stopped, and we really appreciate what they did for that. So that's my.
Anybody else?
Robert, would you clarify something, please?
Yes, sir.
That, I think in one of the emails the town sent out, it said that the dive company was supposed to video the valve. Was there any video taken?
There's a video. We have it. It's going to the engineers for review.
And then also, here, just to be clear, it said that the divers that were, when they were diving at Buckeye, that you and Daniel, or Daniel and Ronnie were present. And then in line item, and then in number 2, it's got that Daniel and Ronnie were contacted and alerted to the incident. Were they at the incident?
No.
During it?
We had already left for the day.
So town employees weren't there the entire time that they were diving?
Ronnie, there was a water plant operator on site at the time.
Right. There was an operator on site, but we did not keep a town employee with them the entire time they were working. I did daily checks each day, a couple times a day, went down to check in with their staff.
So, in hindsight, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, but in hindsight, should a town employee, somebody
Wouldn't have
been
changed anything anyway.
on-
I don't think so. It's not gonna make a
So
difference.
wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah, and we don't have enough town employees to put their contractor hat on them out all the time they're here. Just like when we're laying pipe, we don't stay with them. We'll go do inspections. Even the inspector won't stay with them. You just go and you check and you go right. They're responsible for their own safety. What happened was an accident, and no, I wouldn't change it. I think we did the right thing at the right time. We took what could have been a catastrophe, and thanks to the fire department, Bob, all the rescue people, and turned it into more of a calamity. They've asked me 2 or 3 times, would you change anything you did that week? And I thought, no. I'm just really thankful it turned out as well as it did, because standing down there at Tuesday night, I was about sick. When you're sitting there listening to this guy stuck in that thing, and on the video we can hear him, I don't want to do that again. And I am very thankful to God that he got out of there in one piece.
Oh, amen to that.
Go ahead, Kelly.
My last question is not really directed to you, it's directed to town council, and it was regarding the notice that went out that said, we're in an emergency water shortage. If anybody goes over a certain amount, there's a fine. And that went out on social media, went out, I got a text message, I got the email, I got it. But there's a lot of owners up here of rental property that didn't get it, and there were a lot of renters up here that were never informed of that. So I'm just asking about that fine situation where if I have a rental property and my renters didn't get those messages because they don't follow Town of Beach Mountain, am I gonna get fined as an owner based on the statute that went out or what was posted on Town Hall?
You want me to?
Go ahead.
Well, I can tell you as a property manager, we were notified, and then I made sure the guests were notified. It's our job to protect, it is our job to protect those homeowners.
There's families visiting for the holidays. We're talking about not Pinnacle, top of the beach. We're talking about families that have come up to use grandma's house. Or
If
VRBOs or whatever.
if they
It's-
drove off the mountain at all, they saw the signs. The reverse 911 was activated. If it's an active rental property and they are in legal compliance, they have a landline telephone. They would have received the notice that way.
Half the people that I've talked to said if I'm renting a house and the phone rings and it's a landline, I'm not gonna answer it.
Well, you can't make people
well,
do
I mean,
what
that's
they're
what
not
I'm
gonna do.
saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I would rethink your fine policy
as you're finished up with all of this, that as word went out, you don't wanna hurt tourism to the mountain by then
There's
finding
renters that are
owners
disrespectful,
that
really don't care.
Well, that's true, and you can't make, look at Holiday Beach Villas, I got a call that said the lady upstairs is doing a wash. Doing through the washing machine, so I contacted the owner, and the owner said I told her not to do it. So, go ahead.
Answer that. You can't change the language of that. Those are actually EPA mandated. As you go through the steps of water restriction, that is federal mandated. That language and what the fines are based on federal mandated. And that's exactly what we gave them to see that missile sample. Yeah. Can I make them do it? No. Yeah.
I'm just saying, as the town looks forward
A
now,
better
water
way.
bills.
Yeah.
You may wanna think
A
twice
better way
about,
about it. But
the fines.
Eva,
Okay, an answer to that.
Eva, can you state your address for camera?
100 Speedway, condo number 5. I can answer that because as a resident up here, I got no calls. Not on my landline, not on my.
Are you set up for code red?
That's the answer. See, since we've had that code red, okay, I know I have always been on the town roster. I've gotten it before, but all of a sudden with this code red on the site, so now out of 41 properties that I manage, I went to every single owner that I had, and I said, I want you on that site with code red, putting in all that information, which also gives them a call back at their residence in Florida, wherever they live in Atlanta, and so forth. Many of them didn't know about that, and they said, well, I'm on the roster anyway, and I'm up there in the summer, why didn't I get anything? So I think right now, the answer is that code red that has to be filled out by everyone. Again, go on there, check your information. I wasn't on it. I don't know why. I never did a code red other than the roster that I did originally as a homeowner up here with.
Yeah, it's a different program, and
Yeah.
can you speak to
Mayor,
that?
well, what we just talked about with what we can do in the future, just like we do our postcards and notices, Code Red has been in place for a while.
Yeah.
So some people come off and on. We can send out a postcard and flyer once or twice a year and say, hey, this is how you get on Code Red.
That's a good idea.
And do that. So we'll put a newsletter and try to do that at least once a year. And like I said, you can't force people to do it. I know people who have sent us, take me off of Code Red. And, but we'll
Or
do
we
our
do it
best.
too much.
But we will do a postcard and newsletter and get it out, and like I said, we can do that.
Okay.
But another good suggestion as emergency management is maybe have employees go to all around property. Put a notice on the door or a notice, I know that's labor intensive, but that's
Yeah,
just.
I don't even know if we have the staff for that.
You just have a lot of owners that are gonna end up, like I'm saying, when we all look at our water bill, next.
Well, we did call,
It's just a.
we did call some businesses, we called property managers who manage this, but we didn't call all individuals. The thing about this was kind of an emergency situation, so it's not your standard, it's not a drought that you have more time to do these notifications. So I'm sure if we had more time, we would have done more of these.
Hold on, guys.
So, anyway, that's it.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, but go ahead.
Well,
You wanna
Willie,
state your
state your
Willie?
name and your
Willie,
address.
and I'm at 206 North Pinnacle, and I don't think anyone should have an option of opting out of the code red. If you're not on the mountain, you should still get the notification. I don't think, because of the environment up here, I just don't think that people that come up for the summer should be able to even opt out. I think everybody needs to be required to provide their information and get the information. And if they're in Florida, so what? It's a phone call or a text. But this thing of, oh, I'm only up here 6 months, take me off the list, well, they don't fail to say, oh, but my kids are coming up and using the place or whatever. So I would just say, everybody has to be on it 365 days a year, period.
Thanks, Willie. Glenn, did you raise your hand? Okay. Oh, Sandy.
Raise my hand.
Sorry.
Sandy Connor, 505 Pine Ridge. I was fortunate enough to let me volunteer at the station, and I will tell you that of the couple hundred people that came through, there was only one person that was even mildly agitated. We got a big kudos for our community support, and not anybody was upset with us. It could have been, it was Thanksgiving Day. We were giving out, thanks Fred, we were giving out the cases of water, and I will tell you, the police department thought of the senior list, so the fire department loaded up trucks, and we had a couple of people that were going and hitting people that we knew might not be able to get out and get their own water. The rental companies came. We had other rental companies picking up for other rental companies. I think, if he had been there, he would have seen the community spirit, and I don't think that we really missed too many people.
Thank you, Sandy.
And the club brought food down.
Real quick, Tammy, can you give Tamara your name and address, your full name and address?
Yes, it's Timber Gates. Mailing address is P.O. Box 2032, Fair Oak, North Carolina.
And did anybody else speak, though, before, when we were getting addresses, so Tamara gets them? Okay, Susie, the last
Susie.
question.
Susie O'Connell, 132 Grassy Gap. I know the ski slopes were open that weekend. I know the ski has their own water reservoir. But all the shops around there and restroom facilities and all of that, does that come out of their water reservoir?
No,
It's out of ours?
the potable water all comes off our system. The
I
only
was
water-
just surprised they opened.
Yeah. But all the snowmaking is not on the town's water system.
But everything else is.
Yeah. And Ryan,
And they were actually doing what they could with the bottled water and stuff like that.
Ryan
too,
Costin
like
called me
it was.
that night to
Because I
say,
know we were asked to,
Yeah.
watch the flushing and all of this, and I was just surprised they opened it.
Yeah.
In critical condition.
that's
Okay.
all I have.
Thank you, Robert, so much. We really appreciate your input. Okay, on with the meeting. We've got public comments. Frank Steele, would you come up to the microphone and do public comments, please? Everybody, you've got 5 minutes for your public comments, and I do shut you down at 5 minutes.
I'm going to be speaking about the dog leash. Is this the appropriate time for this?
Yes, it is.
Good afternoon, council. I would like to read into the public record an email I sent to you council members and no one else
Minutes.
a few weeks back. Here goes. While reading this email, please do so, or listen to this email, please do so with the knowledge that I'm pleased to say that I generally agree with most all discussions and decisions made to date by this council. I would give this council probably an overall A- rating score today. I encourage you not to allow yourselves to become an overly reactionary and burdensome council that's related to unnecessary laws and ordinance regulations that only serve to, again, divide this community as other councils have done in the past. With that being said, I write this email with a great deal of anticipation and disappointment with your decision to consider passing what I believe to be an unnecessary leash law ordinance. An ordinance I feel will serve no useful purpose and will only serve to create more partisan and divisive issues, conflicts, and problems between dog owners and possibly non-dog owners. This issue is something I oppose with all my strength, energy, words, and wisdom my body will allow me before passage, and if necessary, after its passage. I am voicing my passionate feelings prior to council meetings because dogs and other animals can't speak for themselves. Over the recent years, I have spent many thousands of dollars and thousands of man-hours trying to protect all animals, God-given rights, to be treated and cared for in a compassionate and humane manner. I cannot overstate my deep and passionate concern for why I feel the proposed leash ordinance is unnecessary and is another typical government overreach and an overreaction to what I believe
to be a very minute or non-problem as related to the general public as a whole. I say this because of my 25 years of owning and walking dogs on Beech Mountain. To date, I am unaware of any incidents to the public health, safety, or welfare of the residents of Beech Mountain, or visitors of Beech Mountain. Although I concede, as with most things, there may have been an occasional incident, so isolated. If so, and in my opinion, that does not come anywhere close to being compelling evidence enough to warrant or require the necessity of penalizing all dogs and their owners, the joys, the pleasures, the exercise we all receive, both the dog and the owner, from this outside experience we share together. Those unleashed opportunities for man and dog to enjoy the associated freedoms for a dog to roam, run, and play, chase and receive an old tennis ball or a broken stick, are the highlights of my dog's day. And over the years has given me, my wife, my children, and my grandchildren and friends an abundance of personal and real enjoyment and pleasure as well. It is a part of the bonding process all dog owners enjoy, the experience, the love, and it's something they all look forward to. So please don't penalize and take this joy away from our dogs and from us because of the failure or failures of other dog owners to properly control their pets. Deal individually with that problem when it may occur through some other form of the legal process. That's why you have this guy sitting up here. It is a historically documented fact that dogs require daily outside exercise to live and function properly as God intended, no different than we, man and woman. It is also a documented fact that dogs' most enjoyable habit and trait, other than sharing their love with and to others, is roaming, running, and sniffing the grounds and the air around them. It's in their DNA. It's a pleasure they enjoy more than eating. Being tethered to a leash not only limits or prevents this, but in many cases creates a choking scenario that can be harmful and unhealthy for the dog. Any veterinarian can and will confirm this, as does our own common sense. Given this, I'm requesting that you prepare and make available to all credible, defendable, and documented evidence of all relevant and related dog incidents reported to the town within the last 2 calendar years to show why you believe this to be a dog problem as opposed to being an owner problem.
You have 20
I
seconds.
suspect you will find most cases of reoccurrence from the same dog owners. Since my dog Willie cannot speak for himself, I do so on his behalf, while absolutely knowing for a fact that he would, without hesitation, give his life to protect me, any member of my family, you or any member of your family, without hesitation. I have lots of friends, all of whom I cherish and love.
Frank, it's
but
been
none
5
of those that
minutes.
I can say that about. Simply put, do not pass an ordinance like this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate your comments. Shelley Hull. When coming up, please state your address, Shelley.
My address is 103 Wedling Wag, number 3. This is an email that Harriet Chamberlain, Jerry Lane, Eva Jones, and I compiled and sent to the town, and also sent it to everybody we could think of that would be willing to read it. In the spirit of Christmas, as citizens of Beech Mountain, we would like to bring to your attention, excuse me, at the May 8th, 2018 town council meeting, there was a proposal to deny Christmas bonuses to employees who have been with the town less than a year. We feel it is important for these employees to be included in our Beech Mountain family. This affects 7 of our current employees and an independent contractor who has tirelessly worked in beautifying our town. She's responsible for the seasonal decorations along our roadsides, which make us chuckle as we travel the mountain. As concerned citizens, it's our heartfelt wish that these 8 people not be left out of the Beech Mountain Christmas spirit. As a group, we are asking for your support to give these hardworking folks a joyful holiday. The town of Beech Mountain bylaws state that the donation has to be anonymous to the recipient and the amount has to be equal to each recipient. And this is sort of in the past since this has already happened. There will be a donation collection at Fred's Backside Deli December 6th, 7th, and 8th, and every Thursday, Friday, Saturday until the 20th, from 11:30 to 2 p.m. Please stop by and make your donation or send a check to Harriet Chamberlain, and I have her address if you want it. It's 239 Upper Grouse Ridge Road, Beach Mountain, North Carolina, 28604. Check should be made payable to Harriet Chamberlain, and in the memo, please put employee Christmas donation. Feel free to forward this email. You can also contact one of us if you have any questions, and we will be glad to stop by and pick up your donation.
Thank you, Shelley.
And that's from all of us. Jerry couldn't be here today.
Okay, thank you very much.
I will be collecting donations if anybody wants to donate after the meeting.
Jimmy Accardi.
402 Beachmont Parkway. On the positive end of things, yesterday morning around 7:30, I had to pick up 4 of my employees off of Charter Hills, Tamarack Road, Lake Circle, near the club, and thanks to Robert Heaton and town manager and the council for keeping the roads clear during the storm. That's an awesome job, so I think that's wonderful. Also, 2 weeks ago on Thursday, we had a little Friendsgiving thing we put together for the fire department, police department, and EMS up here locally. Most of you were here and a lot of other people in the community. We were able to raise right over $2,000. So that's a really good job, I think. Thanks to everyone, you guys. And like I said, the credit goes to everyone, all of you guys. You're the one who raised the money. So good job to you guys, really. So,
Well, good job to you for doing.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jimmy. Therese Barry, state your address, please.
100 Squirrel.
That many squirrels?
That many squirrels, right, and my grandchildren can identify them. What I'm going to talk about winds down to being about tourism. We've talked so much about tourism. Everything is revolving around that. Okay, remember that. At the holiday market, Susie and I were at the door. We are usually at the door at events at Buckeye. And we raise a lot of donations and get a lot of people to buy raffle tickets. We're very good at this. We guilt them into it if they look like they need to be guilted into doing something. So for the holiday market, we checked in 456 people. That's a lot of people. Now, when you sit at the door, and I was there the entire day, when you sit at the door, people start talking to you. Now, everybody likes to tell me his or her personal opinion anyway and ask me all kinds of questions. Next thing you know, I'm going to be giving medical advice. But people just do that, okay? So they tell me all kinds of things. Now, remember, this is Thanksgiving, the water crisis. Okay, they all are asking questions about the water. And they're all asking questions about their garbage. And they're all asking questions about everything. One of them said, I don't want to hurt your feelings, honey, but I don't like such and such. I said, well, you know, I have nothing to do with that. Don't bother me with that. Okay, so garbage. What do I do with my garbage? So I ask, where is your garbage? It's in my truck. So we can't leave it there overnight. Why not? Bears will get it. They don't understand this, okay? Now, these people that are confused are renters, but they don't know where they're renting. Where are you staying? Well, I'm not sure. I think it's over there, up that road. No, they don't know. Okay. Now, you want to make things pleasant and nice for tourists as well as for residents, okay? What happened after the holidays? There were pictures online. The bears gotten all the garbage, right? Scattered everywhere. It happens after every big rental time up here, okay? The renters don't know that they shouldn't put their garbage out. Now, I know you're all saying that's, oh, we've already talked about this. But it doesn't matter. They don't know. They don't know code red. They don't know about the garbage. They generally don't know anything. It's the rental managers or owners of the houses, whatever, need to make very, very clear that you can't put your garbage out except when it's being collected. Don't take the garbage can away from them because they'll put it in mine. Or they'll put it in yours or whoever. So, okay. So we want to keep the owners happy and we want to keep the renters happy and the residents happy. We want to have the town look neat and pretty, right? We have garbage all over because it's not being adhered to, or the rules not being adhered to. Now, Drive down Squirrel, and what do you see? You see a sofa under a deck. How ghetto is that? That sofa has been under that deck for months. It's been reported, and the person has been notified. It doesn't matter. Drive down the Parkway. We had a lovely washer and dryer thrown off a deck or out a door or something. That was there about 10 days. Yes, it was reported. It was stated at the last town council meeting. We don't have a bear problem, we have a people problem. We don't have a people problem, we got a slob problem. And all the beautiful decorations, all everything isn't gonna make any difference if you cannot rein in the slobs. Something has to be done. Education, I don't know, the totem pole of shame. You remember I talked about that a couple of meetings ago. Something has to be done, that this has got to stop. The bears have to be, the garbage has to be kept from the bears. The washers and dryers can't be thrown off the decks, and certainly no more sofas. Right?
Right. Thank you, Therese.
So were there any fines Thanksgiving weekend? No.
Cindy Keller. Oh, boy. It is a tough act to follow.
That's like Pat Boone after Elvis Presley.
State your address.
Hope it's not under your belt.
Cindy Keller, 100 Village Creek Road. Frank, you took the words right out of my mouth. I have no letter, I have no coalition, but I would like to ask you people, how many of you people have problems with dogs in your neighborhood?
I was knocked flat on the ground by a dog bigger than I.
Less, what do we got? 5 people here out of, it's a minority. I thought that a lot of these complaints were about my dogs. And I think that about 90% of the complaints about my dogs are coming from one of my neighbors. Although I was assured that was not the case, and I'm still not sure that's not the case. But dogs, cats, all animals live to be free. Yes, there's 1 or 2 hooligans out there, but they are not vicious, and they are just rambunctious. They're just being dogs, and it is unfair to penalize every animal for the bad behaviors of 1 or 2 animals. If it's my dogs, penalize me. If it's somebody else's dogs, penalize them. But please, God, do not penalize every animal on this mountain. Most of us came here to get away from leashes and restrictions and petty problems. And if you pass this, you're basically setting yourself up to put neighbor against neighbor, and you're going to have to hire additional police to come and deal with the squabbles between the neighbors. Please take it incident by incident. Free the dogs, free the cats.
Thank you, Cindy. Alrighty, moving on. Moving on. Thank you. Okay, council, we have a consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the 2019 meeting calendar for the town council, boards and committees. We are taking out the meeting dates and we'll discuss them later. We have a budget amendment on the water plant. We have a tax release and refunds. And the closed session meeting minutes and the regular meeting minutes for November 13th, 2018. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Move the consent agenda.
Wendell moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Barry seconds. Any comments?
I have one comment. This past year, just a question why. When we had the federal holiday, it fell on Monday, but the town took the holiday on Friday. Why don't we follow the federal holiday schedule?
We'd actually had an employee request the year before to switch it to Friday. We honor that request, and unless there's another change, we plan on keeping it on Friday anytime it falls on the weekend.
So you're saying employees asked to have it on Friday? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
The new business. We have a gentleman who has helped us tremendously through promotion and helping us with the Shane Park promotion. He is a professional, and if you've seen any of the videos with the drone videos and the pictures that he's taken, Beech Mountain has benefited extraordinarily much by Mr. Glenn Schweitzer. He has done a lot for us, and we would like to have a proclamation for him in appreciation of his civic service. And I would just like to read that proclamation, and then we'll embarrass him, and he'll come up and we'll take a picture. Glenn Schweitzer has volunteered his time, knowledge, and expertise capturing the vibrant images of our mountain region in photos and video to produce promotional products for fundraising and education, supporting the Parks and Recreation Department. I hate these things. Whereas, through the vision and direction of Glenn Schweitzer, professional content has been created, captured, and published for use by the town in achieving its goal for funding and building a new park for its citizens and visitors. Whereas Mr. Schweitzer's charitable deeds and donations to the cultural arts has contributed to the civic organization of the future Shane Outpost Park, wherein public green space and the public Water Creek blue space is planned. Whereas the planned park features will include picnic shelters, primitive campsites, new fishing pier, water splash feature, low ropes courses, additional hiking trails, public bathrooms with showers, and the educational and cultural amphitheater. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Beech Mountain, that the Beech Mountain Town Council hereby extends its gratitude and appreciation to Mr. Glenn Schweitzer for his work supporting the town, his numerous creative talents, and many volunteer hours producing professional content that further promotes Beech Mountain and assists in its recreational endeavors as the town continues to advance and grow for future generations to come. Thank you, Glenn Schweitzer, for everything you've done for this town.
I'll hold you posed for a couple of things so Rebecca gets a
Okay.
picture. Have a delay poses.
Bob Pudney, would you like to come up?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor, Council, community. I want to talk briefly about the dive rescue incident and recognize some people, if you will. Back on, you've heard about it, on November 20th, we had an unusual call here in Beech Mountain where we had a diver trapped underwater, sucked into a pipe. Pretty much run-of-the-course call when we got dispatched, and we said, we'll go and see what we can take care of. I will tell you that I've been in this business for over 45 years, and I've been to quite a few rescue calls. I've been to quite a few dive rescue calls. And I can count on one hand the number of calls, dive rescue calls, and still have some fingers left over where we were successful to get the individual out of the water and alive. It usually turns into a recovery dive. That's what typically happens across the country, and certainly has happened in my career. This one didn't work that way, and it didn't work that way because a whole bunch of different people came together quickly, very efficiently, and we were able to put together an operation that today I just still can't believe it. Last week I shared with the members of the fire department, and I recognize each one of them for their activities coming together to make that rescue work. I've recognized the mutual aid people that from Carter County and Linville Fire Department that provided some expertise. But there are two people that are not in the fire department and not in those mutual aid organizations. They're town employees that I want to recognize today, and I want to tell you a little bit about what they did. So Daniel Davis, would you come up, please? This was Daniel's lake. I'm standing on the middle of the dam in the middle of the night, and there's a diver underwater, and we've got something to do to get this guy out. And Daniel shows up, and he walks over to me, and he says, "Whatever you need, I'm here." And throughout the evening, whatever I threw at him, he came up with. We needed a pump. We needed a sump pump. Actually, I didn't want a sump pump, but we needed a pump to pump hot water down to the diver. I won't tell you how we made the hot water, but it was in a turkey fryer. And we used a garden hose from the fire station to put it together. But Daniel was instrumental in getting us equipment from the water plant, backhoe, turkey fryer LP gas that we needed, sump pumps, things of that nature. And he was ready and able to make that happen for me. What was more important, though, and why this is important for you, Daniel, this man's alive today because of your efforts along with a bunch of others, is when we connected a rope, we took it across the lake, and we connected it through a backhoe, and I put as many people as I could find at the time that were available on this rope. And the idea was that when I gave the order, we're going to pull this diver out of the pipe, along with our rescue diver, who had also got stuck on the pipe. Daniel was on that rope. Not only did he get me all the parts and pieces that I asked for at the water plant, he went down around the corner. I couldn't even see him, and he was on the rope. So when we gave the order to pull, you were there and you pulled on that rope. And that man's alive today because of that. So what I'd like to do, Daniel, if you come over here, is I'd like to give you a certificate, a life-saving certificate from the fire department. And this may never happen again in your life or your career, but this man's alive because of your actions, and we certainly appreciate it. So this is the Beech Mountain Fire Department Life-Saving Award. Almost gave you the wrong one. Daniel Davis, for your efforts at the Buckeye Lake Rescue on November 20th, 2018. Now there's one other individual I'd like to bring up, our telecommunicator, dispatcher, Wendy Bear. Wendy, if you come up. Wendy and I go back about 10 years since I came on the mountain. And Wendy's been the dispatcher that I talk to on a frequent basis. Come on over here. And certainly we have had conversations that didn't always go as well as we had hoped, right?
Oh, yes.
Not this night. Not this night. Let me tell you what Wendy did. Now, Wendy came in after the call started because I first was talking to Sergeant Miller, and then Wendy got on the radio. And let me just set the stage a little bit. This is my connection to the outside world. I'm standing on this dam in the middle of the night with this situation. I have a radio in my hand. That's it. And when I talk on the radio, Wendy listens. And I asked her for really strange things. I won't go through them all, but she got me an inflatable boat. She got me thousands of feet of rope. She got me a Black Hawk helicopter. She called numerous other medical helicopters. We needed a hyperbaric chamber in Duke, and we got permission for that. And she got me escorts from Tennessee. But what was really important was I told her I needed a boat with a really big motor. My plan, if the rope didn't work, was we were going to pull this guy out into the lake with a boat and a big motor, because I used to water ski when I was in Florida, and those things were really powerful. And I figured I'd just tie a rope onto them and jerk them out of the pipe. Luckily, we didn't have to try that. We used the turkey fryer method instead. Wendy got me a boat. Now, we're at the top of Beech Mountain, and I need a ski boat or a bass boat with a big motor. And she got me that and told me it was on the way, and she arranged for police escort from Roan Mountain for that boat. And actually, when we made the rescue, that boat was being put into the lake, and that was what we were going to do next. It turns out that that boat belonged to Wendy's husband. Now, I don't know what that phone call sounded like. Honey, hook up the boat. My fire chief needs it at Buckeye Lake, and I'll have a Tennessee deputy meet you there and bring it. I don't know how that went. I will tell you that if all these people didn't come together that night, this man would not be alive. He owes his life to those 45 people that showed up from 2 states and to make this happen. And Wendy's part was instrumental. We could not have done what we did without you at the other end of that radio, on that telephone. So I'd like to give you this life-saving award from the fire department, presented to you for your efforts at the Buckeye Lake Rescue on November 20th.
Thank you, Rob. Wendy and Daniel, you have a grateful town that says thank you very much. We appreciate everything that you've done. On to the next item. We have an amendment to the Recreation Master Plan. Sean, would you like to come up and discuss that?
Good evening, council.
Good evening, Sean.
So we have a slight, the Recreation Committee went over our master plan last week at our meeting just to look at an amendment that we need to add in from the copy that was adopted originally in March 2018. Really what this came down to was after our PARF application, Tim and I met with our representative, and one of the things that we did not score highly on was one of the details she said missing in the master plan. She said, this is very simple for you to fix. She would like a regional inventory list of everything up here, because we all know the high country has the best recreation opportunities anyways. So she said, spit it out there. You need to have this in your plan. And sure enough, after she brought this up, I looked at a couple more master plans for some just surrounding counties. Sure enough, they all have it, and we didn't. So it is something that I missed out on in the first go round. So we did an inventory really quick. I had Marissa with my department, and then also Rachel, the intern with Preston. She worked on it as well with it. So once we got it all together, we had our representative read over this a few times to make sure it's all sound. She approved it, so that was what we needed. And then I took it to my committee, and they all approved it as well. So I'm here for you today to just approve the amendment to the master plan. And if you have any questions regarding, I can answer those.
Any questions, council?
No, I read it thoroughly. It's nice work.
Do what?
I read it thoroughly.
Oh.
It's nice. It's a nice addition. It was the one missing piece.
Yes.
Watching this develop over the years. So.
Do I hear a motion to accept the amendment to the Recreation Master Plan?
So moved.
Carl moved. Do I hear a second? Any, Widener second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Sean. For the board and committee appointments, we're going to postpone the appointments till January, giving those who may want to submit applications to possibly serve on a board a deadline of December 31st, and then we'll go ahead and make those appointments in January. For those that are serving on boards who are up for renomination, you will, if your board meets before the town council meeting in January, you will still attend that meeting as part of that board. Okay. There was a motion, Widener has requested that something be added to the agenda that the town should consider supporting the resort transportation, and so to get that discussion moving, do I hear a motion to accept the fact that the town should contribute to the resort transportation? Motion? Do I hear a motion? To financially help support the resort's transportation.
What is it?
The buses.
The buses, that's their transportation.
They run from the Pinnacle to the resort
Resort.
parking lot at number 3. The terminus is the Pinnacle,
And
and
then
stop
the three
along the
hotels.
parkway.
Would it only be the Pinnacle parking lot, or would it be also showing the hotels?
It's whatever the resort does with their transportation.
Just from Pinnacle to the resort.
And anyone along the road, along the Beach Mountain Parkway, they make regular stops at the hotels, or if you're standing on the parkway.
The whole town.
They make 5 stops
Yeah.
from the Pinnacle to Beach Mountain Resort.
It benefits those particular businesses
Okay.
located upon the parkway.
Let's go back to this. To really get into a discussion with council, we need a motion to open up. Do I hear a motion to discuss this?
I'll make a motion to discuss it.
Okay, is there a second? Motion fails. Next on the agenda is a good addition where it was brought to the attention that maybe a public comment section should be added at the end of the meeting so that the audience can ask questions regarding what was discussed on the agenda. Do I hear a motion to open the discussion to add the public comment section at the end of the meeting for agenda items only?
So moved.
Second.
Carl moved, Widener second. Open for discussion.
I have no problem with that as long as it is just that. It is not a chance to revisit things that could have been in public. If you wish to discuss something that occurred on the agenda after the public comment, and not have to wait until the next meeting, if we can keep it time reasonable, then absolutely, I would have no problem with that.
I agree. To make it clear, you guys would be asking questions on things we've already voted on or have discussed. We're not going to go back and change our vote based on your questions or your comments, but it does give you the opportunity to express yourself over something we voted on. So, or have discussed. That's really basically it, just another way for us to get input from you and see how you feel about stuff. Any other comments?
I think this would be a comment period that they wouldn't have to sign up for because
Right.
they may not have a reason to talk until something is
That's
discussed during
correct.
the meeting.
So it would be kind of how we used to do it until I changed it, where we would pick people from, if you have questions, then we'll talk about it. One thing we don't want to do is start getting into a back and forth, especially on something we've already voted on. But we're more than welcome to, we would like to hear your comments, and really that's what it comes down to. Any other discussion? All in favor of adding the public comment at the end of the meeting for agenda items only? Aye.
Aye.
Did I hear an aye?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion passes. We have old business, and just by the way, we will start that at the end of this meeting, so, since it passed. We do have the animal restraint ordinance. Do I hear a motion? Don't go crazy, people. We have to do a motion to accept the ordinance to get the discussion going. So do I hear a motion to accept the animal restraint ordinance?
Motion.
Barry made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Wendell second. Open for discussion.
Well, I'll start. I'm a hard no,
Okay.
so.
I'm a second, though.
Barry?
I'm a hard yes.
I think I'm a yes as well.
Yeah, I understand. I've owned dogs most of my life until I got 9 cats and can't have a dog. And I understand what Frank is talking about and what Cindy's talking about. I really do. When I lived in Florida, I had to find places to bring my dog to let him roam because I couldn't let him roam in Florida and let him run. And he was a chow and he liked to run, and he certainly wasn't under voice control. So I do understand that, but I also understand that I drive around this mountain a lot, and I see a lot of people walking their dogs on leashes. And I see a lot of dogs roaming around. And Cindy, I promise it wasn't a complaint on your dogs. It really wasn't. And I've had complaints from different people that they're walking their dogs and a dog running, they may know the dog or they may not know the dog is coming up and they're getting nervous because they don't know what the dog is going to do. Some dogs get their hackles up. Other dogs, their tails are wagging, but they're getting all excited. And I don't think it's the minority of people that are walking their dogs. I don't think the majority of the people are just letting their dogs roam, but I think those dogs that are roaming can cause issues with people whose dogs are on leashes. And I know it's not going to be popular, but I am also for this. So is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I would like to comment. I don't have a dog, so it's easy for me to go either way on an issue like this. But I think it's important to look at the fact that there are a lot of people that let their dogs wander loose. And when I say wander loose, that's exactly what I mean. The current ordinance says that the dog has to be under control of the person that owns the dog. But I see dogs wandering around and there's not another person in the vicinity. Even if that dog would respond to a voiced command to return to the owner, if the owner's not there, that's not going to happen. Most of the dogs that the police department has had reported to them as being lost are because the dog either got out and didn't come back when they were supposed to, when they were called, or they got out and the owners didn't know it. I had a dog in my house that I kept there for 3 hours while I was trying to locate the owner. And I finally got in touch with the owner through his vet in Raleigh. He had a phone number where he could call and get in touch with the owner. There's also the situation where a dog running loose will approach another dog on a leash, and sometimes the reason the person has the dog on a leash, they're giving them that walk, giving them the exercise that they need. But in many cases, that dog may not like other dogs because he hasn't been around other dogs. And a fight could occur. And people have, I believe, I know it's happened in Florida, can't say for sure it's happened here, where somebody has been bit trying to separate their dogs from others. And that's the reason I think that the leash is the best way to go. We have the dog park available to people where if they want to let their dogs run loose, there's a place that they can do that. There's a dog, I know the people here in Town Hall see that dog all the time, that wanders around the area up here out into traffic as well, so that's not really a responsible dog owner. But anyway, they get out into traffic. This dog, I know, has a radio controlled beacon attached to him. And the reason is not so much to get the dog to come home, but probably so that they can find out where the dog is when that dog doesn't return home after a period of time. So that's the reason I will vote for the ordinance.
I just, as a footnote, and I know people are going to think I'm making this up because it's too timely, but I almost ran over a dog last week. And it was on Wild Daisy, and the owner was right there doing something in her driveway. And it's just the cutest little dog. And my husband was driving, and sure enough, we were passing their house, waving to our neighbors, and this dog comes across. We got so scared that we jumped out of the car, and I'm getting ready to get hysterical because if I ever killed a dog by my car, I don't know what I would do. And thankfully the dog was okay, happy as can be. You know, Darren and I are like this, thinking we just killed this dog. And, you know, the homeowner was like, sorry. And, you know, I understand about dogs running, but dogs running could get killed by cars. And it's happened on Beech Mountain before. It's happened coming off of Beech Mountain. John Merritt, you experienced that when you saved that dog's life on the side of the road going down Beech Mountain a couple of years ago.
Well, if that's the case, then we're going to have to put leashes on deers.
Thanks for bringing that up, Wyman.
But
We were gonna try the bears first.
to be perfectly honest with you, there's only one person on the mountain that I feel sorry for in this particular instance, and that's Susie. Susie, who takes care of the flowers and plants, her dog does run loose, and that's something that I feel bad about. But you just can't make exceptions for a situation like that. I'm sorry. You were gonna comp that. I know you did. It's not a
Can I ask a question? So is the leash law in effect it's for all of Beach Mountain, but on your property per se, like my backyard?
No.
No,
Okay.
it's your property.
No.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
What if the dog's being held?
Sorry?
What if the dog is being held, or if it's a service dog?
No, that's different.
But most service dogs, if I'm not mistaken,
Are leashed.
are leashed.
Not if they're 8 pounds. Not if they're very small.
An 8-pound service dog.
I think if it's being held, you might ask the police chief, but I mean, that's under control. I mean, if they're walking around
If they're
with them.
being held, that's not being part of on the leash. I mean, they're being under control. Jerry?
I have a
Terry?
question. All the discussion has centered around the dog that is not under voice command because they're running loose. The law, what is currently on Beach Mountain satisfies that.
It says it has to be under control.
The problem is if they're not under control and the police don't see it, there's nothing that they can do about it. If you call and say there's a dog running around and, the owner's calling it and it's not coming back, by the time that, if you call the police, by the time the police come, that dog could have gone back to its owner, then they can't do anything about it. And that's the,
If this is a recurring problem, they should be able to.
Yeah,
it,
you don't need to change. The current statute takes care of everything.
I agree, it's just not being.
And do this.
yeah. We're gonna have a public hearing on this. What we're gonna do is make a motion to have a public hearing for a new ordinance, correct?
Well, you could approve it right now, because the police power.
Could, but you certainly have the option to have a public hearing. It's, since it's not a zoning ordinance, it does not require one, but council may have one if you desire.
I'd rather have a public hearing, make a motion for a public hearing.
Amend the motion.
Oh, so you're gonna amend the motion to have a public hearing,
Correct.
okay? Are you-
I'll second it,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
I was
All right.
trying to ask the question, have you got any, I asked.
We're gonna have comments at the end.
We're gonna have well, first of all, you could,
Let me finish my question.
you want to know if
I
it
wanna
specifically
know if you got
happened.
2 years of historical incidences that you could base something on to do this. And I asked that over a month ago, and I'd really like to know the answer to that, because that's why I sent it. I didn't send, I haven't spoken to no one other than you guys. I'm very passionate about this.
I realize that, and at the public hearing, we'll have that information
So
for
you're
you.
saying you don't have it today?
No.
No, I don't have it right now, no. Okay, so we have a motion to have a public hearing on the ordinance and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor to go to public hearing for the restraint ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay.
Against.
Motion passes 3-2 to have a public hearing at the next meeting. Okay. Mr. Holloman?
All right, thank you, Mayor. I've got several items, but I'll try to be as quick as possible. Just to clarify, on the consent agenda, when the board meetings were approved, that approved May 5th as a regular board meeting. I think everybody knew that, I just want to restate it. January 15th, from 8:30 till 4:30 will be the council retreat. If any citizens have any information they would like to be discussed at that retreat, usually last year we just compiled citizen interest and give it to the council that day. You can email it to clerk@townofbeachmountain.com or manager@townofbeachmountain.com, and we'll probably be putting out some notices so that you know you're able to do that. Once again, a big thanks to Public Works for the last couple of snow incidents, and especially this one recently, and the salt's working really well. Everybody came together and still working, so they're doing an outstanding job. We talked about the diver and utilities, and I always thank the utilities for all they do for Beach Mountain, and so I just want to reiterate that one more time. Comprehensive plan survey. The planning department, planning board has been working on this for many months now. There is a survey link on the town website. You can click on the little button, it takes you right to the survey. The link's on our Facebook page. I have to look, I think January, I don't know if it's January 15th is the deadline. That's correct, Preston, January 15th. So go do that. We've got some copies, hard copies out at the town desk, front desk if you need some. So please go and work on that survey. It's very important. The last time we did one was 2013. A lot of things have changed since then, and we just want to appreciate everybody who's participated in different meetings. We've had, 5 different meetings on different issues, tourism, land development, et cetera. So if you've been following that, please keep up with that. New public works hour, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. went into effect December 1st. Just like to remind everybody about that. I think there's a sign down there. Yeah, I think it's lit up right now too. So the gate closes at 6 p.m. We did have a new hire that started today. So we do have a new employee the council approved at the last meeting. Okay, let's see, what else? Also, Toys for Tots. I know the Parks and Recreation has an angel tree. We have a Toys for Tots box that the police department is working on, so it is pitifully empty right now. So please see if we can fill it up in the next few days. And also the mayor, just to let you know, the mayor sent a lot of thank you letters out to everybody who worked the November 20th incident. Just to let you know, we didn't forget people, and those went out as well. Also, the last thing I have, this meeting is the first one that's televised live. So you are all on live, not candid cameras, everybody's out in the open. And we'll be doing that from now on. Over the months, we'll try to add in planning board and different boards so that they can be live streamed. If you don't know how to do it, on the town website, down where a lot of people don't know where the Code Red symbol is, so we'll have to make sure they know where Code Red is. Below that is a civic engagement portal. That will take you all kinds of civic information. And then right below that, if you want to go directly to live stream, if you click on that, if you're not here, it'll take you right to the meeting when we have a meeting. So just try to remind everybody about that. And Mayor, thank you very much. That is the end of the notices.
Thank you. Town council comments. Carl?
Lead off hitter. All right. Now I will try to hold my tongue, I guess. I've got to say I'm disappointed in us as a populace. The town, the residents' reaction to the crisis at the lake. This immediate jump to an assumption of incompetence or malfeasance or ignorance on the behalf of our Public Works Department, who I think is doing a fantastic job. The lack of understanding of the way they have to work in compliance with the federal, state, local, and government agencies. That this idea, everyone, why would they choose to do it there? They chose to do it there using expertise, knowledge, and the best opportunity. It was a catastrophic failure of events, but up and down the board, I was just so disappointed in the reaction of us as residents of the town. And I would like to thank all of Public Works, the volunteer fire, everyone, to Tim and his staff for their reaction to a very unfortunate situation, And as Therese said, the pole of shame for every one of you that leapt to a conclusion that in some way, shape, or form that there was incompetence involved at any stage of what happened, or any lack of understanding of our town, or the timing, or anything else. I mean, it was professionally handled from the beginning, and the response to a very unfortunate situation was fantastic as well. All right, next, as you lobby before the public meeting on the dog leash, I'm a hard no. You don't need to waste your time if you are one in opposition to it being passed. I think you know the 3 that you need to campaign to there. There's another thing that bothers me a little is we keep hearing people want to circle back to the ornament. Like this was the first understanding needs to be that TDA dollars are guest-driven dollars. These are occupancy tax dollars. They paid for 1/2 of that thing. So if you want to complain to us, it's about $11,000 that came out of an existing holiday decoration budget that, if this is cared for, will save us money, because you won't have to buy it one year. If we keep this thing for 5 years, which I assume, if properly cared for, the life expectancy could be much longer, you're saving money. Yes, from what we spend on holiday decorations. If you like what Susie does, then you are in support of, that. It's all the same pot of money, it's all the same idea of presenting Beach Mountain away. This is reusable and usable over 2 holiday seasons. And if you get a life expectancy, if you want to know what we spend on lights annually, if you factor a 5-year lifespan, that's $2,100 a year. That is an absolute bargain. What else got my rancor? No, that I look forward to hearing from any and all of you. And thank you again to staff and everyone for your response to the unfortunate incident.
Thank you, Carl. Barry?
Also, all these committees, the public are invited. So if you, if
Work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, only 2 months.
well, I understand, but if you get surprised at some of the stuff that they spend, you guys have input on what they do, so you wouldn't be totally surprised. Now, the ornament, I know we've had a lot of comments about the ornament. I mean, I think we had more comments about the ornament than we had about the water. But the fact is that, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a lot of people in there taking pictures, enjoying it. And so sometimes you look at the cost against the value. And I think the value is outweigh the cost of it. So I think the ornament at first was a little bit of surprise. I'm not gonna sit here and say I wasn't. But after the reaction that the people taking the pictures have enjoyed it, I think it was a great investment. And so we won't kill the town manager this time, but we'll let him survive this episode. But I think it's great. And the one only other thing we talk about all the employees that helped with the divers and all the work that went into that. The one person that nobody's even mentioned is our chief. Bob Putney controlled it all, did all the work, made sure everything was handled properly. Robert had a lot to do with it. These guys don't take any credit. They give the credit to all to their employees or the volunteer firemen. But I tell you what, under fire, you couldn't find a better guy than Bob Putney.
A couple things. I'll keep it brief. So it was mentioned that I brought up the item 8.4, which was the Beach Mountain Resort Transportation. I did, and I also brought up the item of 8.5 and asked for this item to be on the agenda as well. I think it's important that after our meetings or towards the tail end, that the folks that attend have the opportunity to speak. And I think that for you sitting out in the audience, as long as you do, and as often as you come, that your voice needs to be heard. But there needed to be just, and I'll be brief with this, a little bit more with why I proposed something with the resort transportation. And the Beach Mountain Resort in the wintertime, folks come up here for the most part to ski. And the resort is our largest taxpayer, our largest shareholder entity here on Beach Mountain. And I'd say that probably 70% of the folks that come up here in the wintertime come up here to ski. And they have made a significant investment in our mountain, in our community. Are they rewarded for it financially? Obviously so. But the millions of dollars that they've spent. So I never had any kind of a dollar amount that I wanted the town to invest with them. It was just, I've spoken to other ski resorts, and other ski resorts, transportation is funded through TDA, and also there's a line item in the budget for transportation. I wasn't gonna mention the ornament, but everybody else did, so I guess I'll say something about it. I think there are plenty of places on Beach Mountain for a photo shop, and I still say that, it wasn't a good investment, but, the money's been spent, so make the best out of it and make sure that it's properly maintained and and looks as nice as it can be since we have it. The recycling center is looking better. I would suggest that maybe we get larger containers or additional containers for the overflow. I don't think it's a people problem. It's more of a, we need more space because we have more visitors coming to Beach Mountain, which is a good thing. I'm on the fire department with Chief Pudney, and so was Wendell. And when I got the text, I was in South Carolina traveling, and I got the text that there was a diver in the water. And I'm like, a diver in the water? And then my phone started blowing up. Anyhow, I can't give Chief Pudney enough credit for the leadership that he gave, along with everyone else that was involved. I think he said there were 45 people. But we are very blessed and very fortunate to have Chief Pudney as a part of our community. Thank you, Chief. And Robert, the salting of the roads, I think that's been fantastic. A lot of the folks that came to Beach Mountain to ski were over the snowstorm were regulars, and there was a lot of chatter about how nice the roads were. So you guys, I don't think you get ahead of the storm, but you were on its tail end, and you guys did a great job. Thank you. Daniel, good job.
Okay, I like going at the end because I don't really have a lot to talk about, so that makes it kind of nice. But what was just mentioned about the roads, I thought it was kind of interesting today. This is the first time I think I've gone out and found from my place up to the top of Beach Mountain, the roads that were maintained by our Public Works Department were clearer than the roads that were maintained by the state. So I kind of felt good about that. In fact, I think I mentioned that to Tim. Don't get me wrong, the state roads were okay and they were, well, you could still drive on them without a problem, but they didn't look as good as our roads did. So congratulations, Public Works.
Well, they took my thunder, so I'll just, there's just one thing I heard from a part-time resident up here. He blamed it on his wife that he ran out of gas at the top of the mountain when he was leaving. And he had sent me a text going, help. Well, I got it like a day late. So I'm like, sorry. But I did talk to him, and he was so pleased that Captain Carpenter and Jason Brown bent over backwards getting this guy gas for the top of the mountain to go home after the winter storm. And he couldn't say enough about them and our police department. So, Chief, I just want you to know that you've got some big fans out there, and that guy's at the top of the list because he just couldn't say enough about the police department and Captain Carpenter and Jason Brown. And as we all know, we do have a top flight police department and some great people on there. So thank you very much for that. And thank you all for coming and expressing yourselves. And I always say, my number, I will give you my number. I'm in the book. Don't call me after 8 o'clock at night. But I will always be open to listening to whatever anybody has to say, even about the dog leash law. I think I've made up my mind, but there have been times where I've made up my mind and I have changed it. So I'm not saying one way or the other, but I urge you, if you have questions about what's going on, I will get you the answers. If I don't know the answers within the town itself, I tried to be as open as I could through the water emergency. I am always open for phone calls, and I always say that, and nobody ever calls me. I'm feeling a little slighted. So just know that you can call me about stuff, and we'll have a conversation. Susie, go ahead. I don't normally, but go ahead.
Well, it's real quick, since you brought up the recycling center. I know the hours have changed to 6 to 6. Thank you very much for the shoot that's been put in.
Thank you. That I had a note to thank Robert for that myself.
And that's Carl's idea.
Carl brought it up.
Carl brought it
created
up.
the idea.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked fantastic. I was surprised.
Yes, ma'am?
It did for me.
I'm not done.
Fair.
Sorry.
So
Okay. Yes, it's a great idea. But twice I've been up there, I cannot move that door. I don't know if the wood swells, I don't know what happens to it, whether it's cold or what. But finally, someone else pulled up behind me, some guy, and he got it open for me. I don't know if they could check on that, and maybe put a metal.
You're telling the guys right now that they can look at that.
Robert's
so-
listening to you.
They're
as you
listening to
speak.
you right now.
Oh, anyway, I can't, hello, I can't shove it, and I don't know if they're locked. And yes, we need the containers open, I cannot lift that lid.
Yeah, they're not meant to be lifted by the normal person.
And I want to commend everyone getting that together, if we can open the door. And I also want to say positive for Charlie. Charlie's hardly ever mentioned, and he is a real delight.
Yes, he is.
And an asset to this town.
I agree.
Place in order.
I agree. Tammy?
I don't think that the council quite understands why people are so upset about the ball. I don't think people are as upset about one ball. The rumor around town is that there will be 7 more coming. It's all over town.
My number is 387-4533. Call me when you hear stuff like that.
I'm not the only one.
Oh my
There
God.
people are concerned about whether they're stored and the cost, and that might need to be addressed in the minutes in the next meeting, or this one, just because people would like to.
Mayor, can I?
That's why people are coming out about it, not because of.
There is only one ornament coming, and it's here. There is no more plans for any big ornaments now. There will be in the budget every year between $10,000 and $11,000 for additional Christmas things, whether it's a caroler set or different things to go up and down the Parkway. But no, and we're not renting that thing for $22,000 every year. I heard that rumor too, that we're renting that once a year. That's not true either. So just to clarify that.
Along that line, I was very upset how quickly resort transportation got shut down, because I didn't understand what was being asked exactly, and I know if I didn't, there were other people here that didn't. And it very much bothered me it was shut down so quickly. I would like to see it brought back up in the future, maybe even with the TDA being part of it, because if we have that much money, it can't cost that much to help transfer. And I know some people come up here because they don't have to drive their 2-wheel drives. And it's a big deal for that transportation back and forth in the wintertime.
Can I respond to that?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
On the inter-council discussions, that is exactly what I said. That is an item that is the purview of the TDA, and it's not a public-private partnership. Should not be town monies. It does not benefit, this idea that it benefits all guests is a misunderstanding. It benefits a very select located few, but the proper avenue for any town funding would be through a partnership with the TDA.
And so you'll know, the TDA, you can request grants. The resort has requested grants, I believe, almost every year.
Yes. And has
gotten-
received multiple through my
Yes.
time on the TDA board.
But
We
I don't
partner
believe-
quite well with the resort.
To my knowledge,
Probably the biggest money maker for the DDA. They
to,
ought to.
to my knowledge,
That in the club?
to my knowledge, I don't think assistance with transportation has ever been requested.
Madam Mayor, can I just make one
Has it?
suggestion?
Yeah.
On these public comments, the people need to state their name and address before, just,
Yeah,
just so
we'll
we
get used to
be
that.
continuity.
Sorry,
and-
Tamara.
And please ask the public, raise your hand or be recognized instead
Right.
of blurting out. This helps the people who are watching at home. This helps Tamara take the minutes. Not trying to be disrespectful, but just make sure we do it in an orderly fashion. Thank you.
To answer your question, Wendell, TDA and working with the 2020 Vision Committee, we've looked at transportation challenges and needs across the mountain. Both from a public, actually removing that from the resort and doing it, but again, that does not service the vast majority of properties on the mountain. It benefits four businesses on the mountain outside of the resort itself.
I disagree, because I've been dropped off by that shuttle
Okay.
numerous times.
And then, okay, and what about someone who lives down Charter Hills? What is their need? The state road is the main, is maintained to a fairly well, as we've all said. If you're gonna look for public money to expand public transportation on Beach Mountain, it has to be more than simply the pinnacle to the resort.
And I can agree with that and understand that. My issue would be if you're splitting things with the TDA, such as an ornament, why can this not be brought up for discussion? And why was it shut down so quick?
Because the money for the ornament was already in our budget under Christmas decorations.
Never came to council. It was part of an existing
So that's just
budget.
part of running the mountain and the manager's job to do what he's is hired to do.
So they are looking into public transportation on that?
Who, the TDA?
No, the town.
No.
No.
Oh, into public transportation?
Yes.
It's been brought up numerous times and it's never gotten very far because of the difficulties of it. Now, it can be brought up again, but it's been brought up in at least 3 different committees over the years. And the biggest issue is, how do you do it? I mean, and how do you keep it going? And you'd have to run it 14 hours a day, because it used to be brought up, it would be great at night, because if people were gonna go to the bars or whatever, then they wouldn't have to drink and drive. They could drink and get a ride home. But so you'd have to keep it going like 14 hours a day and have the staff for it, and financially, it just was way too expensive. And so it has not come up again since the last time. Eva?
Does Beach Mountain Resort not have a shuttle bus that they go to back into the properties and pick up people? Because I've had lots of clients use it.
I don't know.
They do that.
That's a private industry, and the thing is towns should not get involved in supplementing private
Eva,
industry.
they'll do that like on New Year's Eve. That is not or if they have someone who's been overserved, that is not a service that they offer across the board free.
But as far as it being shut down quickly, there was a motion, there was no second, so no discussion.
I didn't understand, maybe the motion had been, I was asking to clarify the motion.
Right.
And that was shut down, and then the motion was
Well,
shut down.
when you have a motion being made by the council, that's not open for general discussion. That's the council that has discussion. And because there was no second, there was no discussion from the council.
And typically for council meetings, during the items when they're being considered, if you have a public hearing, you can speak in public comments at the beginning and public comments at the end. And this is a little bit different, but there's not a general dialogue during the council meeting at any one time. Dialogue is during workshop sessions or town hall meetings. So that's just a perception.
There's one critical thing that I left out of today's meeting, and I'll speak very briefly on it, so we can all get out of here. And that's, the LZ. The LZ was a priority.
Landing zone.
The landing zone, LZ, was a priority of council a year ago, and I think it was maybe a priority a couple years ago. I don't know where we are with it, but with the incident that we had, there was an LZ that was set up after the diving incident, and I've worked one incident where we've had an LZ, and to take our 501, our ambulance, to Buckeye Field, then have to carry the patient from wherever we get stuck to where the LZ is. It's not an easy task, and I mean, I understand that no one bid on this, but can Public Works not build an LZ for us?
No, we have, no one bid on in November. No, I think it was September, October when we bid it out. We're going to bid it out again in January for the spring. Right now, I don't have any inkling to know that we shouldn't have it built by this summer. So everything should be done, but no, Public Works does not have the expertise in this particular type of approach, because it's going to be polyurethane. Riley, you want to say anything about it?
It's an astroturf sort of situation that will go on the top, so we'll have a grass cover over the base, which will stand fire trucks, ambulances, and everything. So it'll be compacted, and then we'll have a turf on top, so we'll still keep a nice appearance for the rec center.
That's the criteria we were given. Make it look nice. We just won't have asphalt pavement out there to the ball field. So that's why it's a little bit different than, it's not just putting asphalt road out there.
But so that there's a clearer understanding, we keep talking about LZ. It's not the LZ per se, as a
approach.
road access to the LZ. That's where we've had the problem, and that's what we're hoping to address.
Frank?
In addition to, I'm back on the dog leash, when we have the public hearing, I ask for those individual statistics. I would like for the council to ask Attorney Eggers if he would please to have an option. We have an existing ordinance. I believe you expanded on that. I would like to have that ordinance reviewed, looked at, analyzed, and see how it could be strengthened to deal with the owners instead of penalizing the dogs and the good people, because there's many more of us than there are of them. And
That's
have him
a
be
good
ready
suggestion.
to discuss, and debate, argue, whatever we need, because I'm gonna drill down on this. I can just tell you, so you might as well be prepared for this. I'm an animal lover, and I think the council knows this. Mr. Eggers, I would personally ask you to be ready to give the council some heavier ammunition in that new ordinance, in the old ordinance, so that a new one is not necessary to where we have to leash our animals and go through this scenario, because this is something, I gotta tell you, I'm very passionate about.
You're a passionate guy.
And your outstanding for pleasure to help council through it.
I think the council would be fine to do that.
Yeah.
If we can do that instead of a leash law, then all we want to do is be able to get people accountable for their dog's actions, which at this time they're not.
And I have no argument with that. I support that 1,000%.
Okay, Willie, you're the last one, so we can go home.
I am the last one. I'm Lily Wagner, and I live at 206 North Pinnacle. And one of the issues that I would like to address with the dog is the barking. A lot of folks have put fences up, and they take and leave their dogs out for 12, 14 hours a day, unattended, and the dogs bark constantly. In my situation, I actually have to run the air conditioner in my house because of the barking dogs.
You need to call the police. There is an ordinance for incessantly barking, and you need to call the police department.
In a 30-day span, you get 3 complaints on that address, they're automatically cited with a hearing.
Okay, well, I can take it. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Carl, Wagner,
Approved.
approved.
Y'all have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
TJ can do, oh, well, I guess it sounds TJ or Sean, so either one, so either Sean and Kate probably still out together, thrown out the money run permit, and then, you can go ahead and submit it, you don't have to wait till like right before the event, you can go ahead and submit it like in January for review, and then we'll come up with a list, of what you need. Yeah,
You did a
but
great
also
job.
let Sean and Kate get together, fill it out, and go from there. Tim? Doing fine, how about you?
On your live feed, I got a text during the meeting. Only one person was watching it, but he was down in Clemson. He said it was fantastic.
No way to do
All right,
it.
well, that's awesome then.
Yeah, I'll probably pass that on.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
know if it has a counter or not, but he said only one person was showing as being watched.
Usually it shows it on there.
Yeah.
In other towns I work that have this, very few watch it live,
Yeah.
but on the archives, it also logs how many.
Michael was watching. He texted me a couple times. and
Oh, that's cool. So,
He couldn't watch the whole thing.
I didn't know if
he
he heard Barry, because I don't think Barry had his turn on, but he heard everything good.
He didn't really say that for sure, but he said it was a very good
Okay.
outfit.
Well, that's good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. Thanks
Yeah.
for letting me know.